I swear, he's got the memory of a toaster. It got laughs. I smiled too. You do that when you're trying to pretend everything's okay. But it stung. And it didn't stop there. At home, it was worse. She'd leave dishes in the sink, then complain that I never did anything. She'd blast music past midnight, park her car sideways in the driveway so I couldn't pull in, then blame me when the neighbors complained. That's how it started for me and Tanya. We'd been married 5 years, and if you asked me before last year, I would have told you we were all right. We weren't flashy. We didn't take couples yoga classes or post sunset selfies like the folks she followed on Instagram. We were meat and potatoes. Paycheck to paycheck. A small house on Rosewood Lane with a leaky sink, 3 squeaky floorboards in the hallway, and a porch swing she never used anymore. I worked at the warehouse off Elm Street, 10-hour shifts, 6 days a week. She had an office job she barely talked about. Something with numbers and clients and team calls. The kind of job that meant she could work from home but never did. That should have been a clue. The first signs were small. She stopped kissing me in the morning. Stopped saying be safe when I left for work. Then she started sleeping with one leg out of the blanket, turned away from me. No goodnight. No heat. Just silence, like I wasn't even there. At first, I told myself it was stress. Her job had gotten tougher. She mentioned layoffs. Said she was being pressured. But then came the attitude. The criticism. Like she was poking holes in me just to watch me leak. In front of friends, she'd joke about me forgetting things, calling me grandpa because I lost my keys or didn't know the name of some Netflix actor. She didn't cook. Said she was too evolved for kitchen work. If she did throw something together, it was cold pasta or canned soup with the label still half attached. Meanwhile, the fridge was always stocked with her wine, skin creams, and boxed salad kits. Nothing for me. If I wanted a sandwich, I had to go out and get it. I remember one morning, I'd been working double shifts all week, and I came downstairs hoping for at least a cup of coffee. What I got was an empty pot, and Tanya sitting at the table in a silk robe, painting her nails and watching some reality show on her tablet. Morning, I mumbled. She didn't look up. Thought you were going to make coffee, I said. She shrugged. You have 2 hands. No, good morning. No, how'd you sleep? Just that. Like I was an annoying tenant and not her husband. But even then, I stayed. Call it love, call it denial, call it being raised by folks who told you marriage is work, and you don't just give up. I thought maybe if I just hung in there, gave her space, she'd come back around. But Tanya didn't want space. Tanya wanted out. Only she didn't have the spine to say it. No, she wanted me to be the bad guy. Wanted to push me to the edge, so I'd do the breaking. So she could play victim and skip out with a clean conscience. That's when she started disappearing. At first, it was just a couple hours here and there. She said she needed to clear her head, take a walk, get air. Then it turned into whole evenings. Whole nights. I'd come home and her car'd be gone. No note. No message. One night, she didn't come back at all. I stayed up in the living room, sitting on that beat-up recliner my dad gave me. Her seat on the couch was empty. The clock ticked past 2 a.m. I texted her. Nothing. Called twice. Straight to voicemail. She came in just before dawn, wearing a black dress I'd never seen before, eyes glassy, hair tousled, and a smell on her that stopped me cold. Not her lavender body spray. Something darker. Cologne. And cheap male deodorant. She walked past me like I was a coat rack. You all right? I asked. Yeah, she said, dropping her purse. What are you doing up? I waited. Why? I stared at her. Where were you? Out. Tanya. She rolled her eyes. Don't start. I'm too tired. I'm your husband. She laughed. Laughed. Are you? That was the moment. That little sentence. The way she said it, not with sadness, not with guilt, but with smirking cruelty. I didn't hit her. Didn't scream. I just stood there. She said, maybe I cheated. Maybe I didn't. Honestly, I was too drunk to remember. And then she walked into the bathroom and locked the door. 3 weeks later, we were divorced. She didn't fight me on anything. Didn't want the house. Didn't ask for money. Almost like she was in a rush to cut the cord. It stung, but I figured maybe that was the cleanest it would get. I was wrong. We had mutual friends. Most of them I kept. A few still saw her, separately. That was fine. I wasn't petty. I just wanted peace. But peace didn't come. The 6 months after our split were brutal. I was drained. Emotionally. Financially. Everything reminded me of her. The house felt like a tomb, every room filled with ghost sounds. I couldn't cook in that kitchen. Couldn't sit in the living room. I started sleeping on the couch. Not because it was comfortable, but because our bed felt like a crime scene. Work got tougher. I lost focus. Got written up twice. Bills piled up. Then, as if God finally stopped ignoring me, a miracle came out of nowhere. I got a call from an attorney in another state. Said my uncle, my mom's estranged brother I barely knew, had passed away. Left me everything. A modest estate, 2 properties, and a plumbing business that had been running for decades. I almost didn't believe it. But it was real. Just like that, I went from ramen noodles and overdrawn checking accounts to a man with assets, equity, options. And for a while, I didn't tell anyone, not even my closest friends, until I slipped one night at a bar. A couple buddies and I were tossing back beers. One of them asked how I was holding up, and I let it spill. Told them about the inheritance, the business. Said I didn't even know what to do with it yet. I laughed it off. They didn't. And that's when the rumors started. A week later, Tanya reappeared. It was subtle at first. I'd see her in places she never used to go. My favorite coffee shop, the one she used to mock. Tastes like burnt dirt, she said once. Now she was there, smiling at the barista, ordering oat milk lattes. She bumped into me at the park, at a friend's party where I'd been told she wouldn't be. Coincidences? I didn't think so. Every time, it was the same act. Oh, fancy seeing you here. Fake laughs. Light touches on the arm. That performative sweetness she used to weaponize when we were dating. But she never asked directly. Not about the inheritance. Not about the business. Just danced around it. Then came the big move. Late one night, I heard a knock on my door. It was her, wearing a trench coat and red lipstick. And when I opened the door, she unbuttoned the coat, real slow. Nothing underneath but lingerie. I remembered how good we used to be, she said, voice low, eyes glassy. I stepped back. You need to leave. She blinked. You seeing someone? Yeah, I lied. She flinched like I slapped her. Then the mask dropped. She started texting me. Nasty stuff. Voicemails full of venom. Called me a traitor. A coward. A loser who didn't deserve another chance at life. So I blocked her. Then she started showing up. Outside my job. Outside the grocery store. Even once outside my gym. Just sitting in her car, watching. I asked a friend, one of the few who still talked to her, to find out what she was up to. Turns out, she was asking about me. Who I was dating. Where I was living. What I was doing with the money. She wasn't curious. She was calculating. Because the woman who cheated on me to get away? She was coming back with claws out. And she had no idea just how ready I was. Tanya didn't just come back into my life. She stormed in like she never left, like I was supposed to be grateful she remembered my name. And I'll tell you this, there's something deeply unsettling about watching someone try to seduce you using the same moves they once used to hurt you. Her voice got softer. Her tone dipped when she said my name, like it was something she'd just tasted and remembered liking. She'd start our conversations off light, jokes, memories, little moments she knew still held weight. You still make your grilled cheese with pickles? You remember that trip to Lake George when the canoe flipped? She was testing the water. Fishing. But I wasn't biting. Because every time she smiled, I saw that night she walked in reeking of another man's cologne. Every time she reached for my hand, I remembered her standing in our kitchen, daring me to admit I wasn't enough. I let her talk. Let her try. And I gave her nothing. Not because I didn't feel anything, but because I had finally learned what self-respect feels like when it kicks in late but sharp. She started slow. Friendly texts. The occasional voice note. One of them, I'll never forget, it came in at 2:14 a.m., her voice slurred just enough to be honest. I messed up, okay? I didn't think you'd land on your feet like that. I didn't think you'd move on. That wasn't regret. That was resentment. She hadn't come crawling back because she loved me. She came back because I had something now. Money. A future. And maybe worse, dignity. And Tanya? She hated dignity when it wasn't hers. About a week after her midnight lingerie stunt, I started seeing signs that she wasn't handling rejection well. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It rang twice, then stopped. When I tried to call back, it said the number had been disconnected. Then came the fake delivery orders. Twice in one day. Did someone here order 15 cheeseburgers to this address? The poor delivery guy asked, sweating with 2 bags from a drive-thru I didn't recognize. I knew who it was. I didn't need proof. That night, I sat in my truck outside the garage, lights off, engine quiet. I watched her drive past. Not once, but twice. She had tinted her windows, but I saw the glint of her earrings. The ones I bought her 3 Christmases ago. The ones she said were too basic. So I did what I do best. I thought. Calculated. And I called Ellie. Now let me pause here and say, I wasn't dating Ellie. Not really. We'd been friends through my cousin for years. She was kind, clever, and could smell drama before it even reached the door. I told her everything. Everything Tanya had done. How she left. How she cheated. How she came crawling back. And how now she'd started following me. Ellie thought about it for half a second and said, "Let me pretend to be your girlfriend." I laughed. Thought she was joking. She wasn't. "Let's see how Tanya handles being the outsider," she said. So we started planting seeds. Ellie came over 3 times a week. Once during the day. Once at night. Once during my lunch break, just long enough for any eyes watching to catch her kissing me goodbye on the porch. We posted one photo together on social media. Nothing intimate. Just us at a diner, sitting across from each other. Her arm stretched out to take the picture. The caption? "Lunch with this one. Been a minute." That was all it took. 2 days later, Tanya showed up at my work. Hair perfect. Makeup tight. Nails red and glossy. She wore the coat I once bought her in Chicago, the one she said was too formal back then. She smiled when she saw me, like the devil in a new dress. "Hey, stranger. What are you doing here?" I asked, arms crossed, heart steady. She pouted. "You're hard to reach these days. I blocked you." She laughed. "Yeah, I noticed." Her tone shifted fast. She tilted her head like she was disappointed. "Is it true?" she asked. "You with that girl from your cousin's circle? What does it matter? I just didn't take you for the type to downgrade." That line hit like a slap. Not to me, but to Ellie. And Tanya knew it. "Go home, Tanya," I said. "I could have made this easy, you know," she said quietly. "You think she won't leave you too, once the money runs out?" Then she smiled again and walked away. That night, my tires were slashed. All 4. The garage camera? Disabled. But she made a mistake. She left a broken earring in the driveway. One of her old favorites. Gold hoop, fake diamond. I didn't report it. Not yet. But I kept the earring, put it in a Ziploc bag and filed it under future evidence. Ellie was furious when I told her. Not scared. Furious. "She's not just bitter. She's dangerous," she said. She was right. Because things escalated. Tanya sent a letter. Not an email. Not a text. A handwritten letter folded in a pale blue envelope, sprayed with her old perfume, the one I used to love until it became a punchline to betrayal. The letter was 5 pages long. It started as an apology. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't think you'd take it so hard." Then it turned. "You weren't exactly perfect either. You stopped being fun. You stopped being ambitious. You were always tired." And finally, it threatened. Maybe if she knew the real you, the one who couldn't keep a job for 2 months back in 19, she'd think twice before playing house. She mentioned things only someone close would know. My father's brief stay in rehab. The loan I defaulted on in my 20s. She was digging now, trying to scare me into silence. But Tanya never understood one thing about me. You can shame a man into doubt. You can push him until he bends. But if he survives you, you can't scare him anymore. I took the letter and brought it to a lawyer. A calm, older man named Grady, who had the quiet confidence of someone who'd seen worse women than Tanya and watched them lose. He read the letter, set it down, leaned back and said, "She's escalating. And that means she's scared." Scared of what? Of losing her grip. She left you thinking you'd stay broken. She came back thinking you'd crawl. You didn't. Now she's drowning. That night, Ellie stayed over. It wasn't romantic. We sat on the couch eating cheap takeout, flipping through late-night TV. At some point, I noticed her watching me. "You all right?" I asked. She nodded, then said, "You know she's not done, right?" I did. And I also knew the worst was still ahead. But I wasn't afraid anymore. Not of her. Not of what she might do. Because for the first time in years, I felt like myself again. A man standing on his own 2 feet. And no manipulative, bitter, perfume-drenched hurricane was going to knock me down. The next time Tanya showed up, it wasn't in her car. It was in my driveway. On foot. In the rain. Wearing that same trench coat, mascara dripping like paint down a canvas. And in her hand? A single grocery bag with a bottle of cheap wine and 2 plastic containers of microwave pasta. I heard the knock before I saw her. Just 3 soft taps. Measured. Nervous. When I opened the door, I didn't say a word. She looked up, rain clinging to her hair like tears. I thought maybe we could talk," she said. It took everything in me not to slam the door. But I didn't. Because I needed to understand. I needed to see just how low she'd go. So I stepped aside. She walked in like it was still her house. Kicked off her shoes by the mat, shook her coat onto the hook, and set the bag on the counter like nothing had ever happened. "Smells the same in here," she said, sniffing. "Cinnamon, cheap soap, and your weird wood polish." I didn't respond. She reached for 2 wine glasses from the cabinet. She remembered where I kept them and started pouring. That's when I saw it. Her hands. They were trembling. Not from cold. Not from nerves. From withdrawal. I knew that shake. My old man had it too, when he was fighting the bottle before rehab. Are you okay? I asked. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I'm fine. Just had a rough week. I heard you lost your job. That got her attention. Her eyes flicked up, surprised. You heard that? Small town. She laughed. It wasn't my fault. My supervisor was it. She cut herself off. Whatever. Doesn't matter. She sat on the couch, curled up like it was still hers, and patted the cushion beside her. Sit. Please. I did. Carefully. Like someone easing into a chair next to a bomb. She sipped her wine. I know I screwed up, she said. I didn't ask, but I want to tell you. Why now? She swallowed. Hard. Like she'd rehearsed this. Because. I thought leaving would fix me. But I broke something that doesn't fix. That line? It would have worked a year ago. Now, it just sounded like another poem she wrote for herself. Still, I let her talk. She told me how the guy, Jay, turned out to be a disaster. That he was married. That he lied to her. That he used her and tossed her when she got too clingy. She said she regretted everything. Said she missed the porch swings and gas station pretzels. She said she missed me. That's when I stood up. She looked confused. Where are you going? I think you should leave. Her mouth opened like a fish gasping for breath. What? This isn't your house anymore. You don't get to crawl back in and play dress up with my forgiveness. I'm trying. No. You're desperate. The wine glass slipped from her hand, hit the carpet, and rolled. Then her whole face changed. Gone was the sad, fragile woman. What stood in front of me was Tanya, the Tanya I had divorced. You think she's better than me? She hissed. She's decent, I said. That's more than you ever bothered to be. She stared at me for a second too long. Then she smiled. But it wasn't a smile. It was a threat dressed as grace. The next day, Ellie got a message. A fake Instagram account messaged her 20 screenshots, doctored ones. Old photos from my phone, twisted with timestamps that didn't exist. A message underneath. You don't know who you're dealing with. Ellie called me, shaking. She's trying to ruin your name, she said. I know. She's unstable, David. I know. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was afraid. Because I was angry. I drove to the police station the next morning. Filed a harassment report. Brought the earring. Brought the letter. Brought the screenshots Tanya sent Ellie. They started a file. Restraining order? The officer asked. Not yet, I said. Let her show her real face first. She didn't wait long. The next Friday, Ellie and I planned a simple evening chicken Alfredo and a rented movie. It was light, quiet, the kind of peace I hadn't known in years. Until the knock came. This time, it wasn't soft. It was pounding. I opened the door just enough to see her standing on the porch, eyes wide, hands clenched. I want to talk, she said. Now's not a good time. I know she's in there, she whispered. I didn't answer. You think you can hide behind some knockoff version of what we had? That's when Ellie stepped into view. Tanya's eyes snapped to her. Oh, so this is her. Ellie didn't flinch. You need to leave. Tanya stepped forward. Don't talk to me like I'm trash. I didn't, Ellie said calmly. You did that all by yourself. And just like that, like something snapped, Tanya screamed. A wild, raw sound. The kind of sound you hear from wild animals in cages too small for their rage. Then she lunged. She had a cup in her hand. Steam rose from it. I never even saw it coming. She lunged forward so fast, I barely had time to react. In her hand was a ceramic mug. I saw steam rising. Before I could shout, she flung the contents, full force, right toward Ellie. The sound it made hitting skin is something I'll never forget. Ellie screamed. Hi, sharp, sudden. The boiling water splashed across her shoulder and upper arm, her white t-shirt instantly darkening, skin beneath already going red. She dropped to her knees, gasping. I moved without thinking. Grabbed Tanya, slammed her against the porch post, wrestled the mug from her hand. She clawed at me, wild-eyed, snarling like a cornered animal. You brought this on yourself, she shrieked. Neighbors came running. Someone shouted that they'd called the cops. Tanya didn't run. She stood there panting, smirking like she won something. When the sirens pulled up, she turned to face them like royalty. The officers cuffed her. Read her rights. She laughed the whole time. Cackled, like the devil having a good day. I sat with Ellie in the ER that night. Her arm was blistering, angry red. The nurse applied a burn dressing. Said it was 2nd degree. Could have been worse if it had hit her neck or face. She didn't cry. Not once. but her lips trembled when she looked at me. "I'm sorry," she whispered, and I shook my head. "No," I said. "I should be the one apologizing." We sat in silence until the nurse came back with ointments and bandages. Ellie kept her good hand on mine the entire time. Later, back home, she fell asleep on the couch with her arm propped up and her lips slightly parted, still pale from the painkillers. I stood in the hallway, staring at the scorched mark on the wall Tanya had left weeks earlier. Now there were 2 scars, one on the wall, one on Ellie, and both of them were because I ever let Tanya inside. Tanya's attack on Ellie changed everything. There's no going back once someone you love is burned, literally, by a woman who used to share your bed. That kind of betrayal scorches the soul, not just the skin. The hospital took photos. The police took statements. The burns on Ellie's arm were 2nd degree and covered from shoulder to elbow. She wore bandages for weeks. Couldn't lift her arm for 2. Had to sleep on one side. And the pain, it was constant. But what got to her most wasn't the injury. It was the look in Tanya's eyes as she threw that cup, like she was enjoying it. Like hurting Ellie was the next best thing to hurting me. The next morning, Tanya was charged with assault with intent to cause bodily harm. It wasn't just a slap on the wrist misdemeanor. It was a felony. She spent the weekend in jail. But she didn't break. She didn't even apologize. Not to the officers. Not to the judge. And sure as hell not to Ellie. 3 days later, I got a letter. Not from the court. From her. Typed. No return address. No signature. Just clean white paper soaked in venom. You may think you've won, but you should have stayed small. That was your lane. Now that you're playing big, I can play dirty. There was no emotion in it. Just ice. Just a warning. Attached was a photo. A grainy, scanned image of an old medical bill from 2015. My name was on it. The total was large. Real large. My father's rehab stay. Covered in my name. I had taken the debt, paid it off in monthly chunks until the ink faded. Now she had it. And she was ready to make it public. The second sheet was a copy of a loan I defaulted on during the early years of our marriage. A loan she knew I took to help keep our house when I was laid off and too proud to tell my folks. And there was more. Screenshots of old text messages, cut and cropped to look worse than they were. You were broke. You lied to everyone, including me. You said I was your only good decision. Let's see what your new girl thinks about your worst ones. She'd weaponized everything I had ever shared with her in trust. The timing wasn't random. Her court date was set. She was facing real time. She wanted leverage. Blackmail, served cold. I brought the letter straight to Grady, my lawyer. He read every word. Twice. Then he sat back, pulled off his glasses, and sighed like a man who'd been here before. She's not trying to win in court, he said. She's trying to scare you out of testifying. She's trying to blow up my life, I said. Grady nodded. Because hers already exploded. The weeks leading up to the hearing were some of the worst I've ever lived through. Not because of the case itself. Because of the silence. Tanya vanished. No texts. No stalking. No sightings. It was like she was conserving energy. Like a snake under floorboards, waiting for the right time to strike. Then, one night, I got a call. Blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. But the message? I'll never forget it. I still know things about you, David. About your mother. About what happened that summer you told me not to repeat. You think people won't care, but they will. You think your new life is safe? I can take it back in an instant. That thing she mentioned? Something I hadn't told anyone, not even Ellie. It was about my mother's breakdown. The real reason she was hospitalized the summer I turned 22. Something that involved a family member. Something buried deep. Tanya had been the only one I'd ever trusted with it. And now she was holding it like a blade to my throat. I saved the voicemail. Took it to Grady. His jaw clenched. This is extortion. By the time the court date arrived, Tanya had traded her trench coat for a pencil skirt and glasses she didn't need. She came in looking like a schoolteacher. A choir girl. A polished, remorseful woman who had a moment of emotional overwhelm. She didn't look at Ellie once. But she looked at me every chance she got. Smiled. Like we shared a secret. Like I wouldn't dare go through with this. The prosecution was ready. Photos. Medical reports. Eyewitnesses. The nurse who dressed Ellie's wound. The neighbor who saw Tanya toss the mug. Even the ceramic shards collected off the porch. I gave my statement. Calm. Clear. I told the truth. Then Ellie took the stand. She didn't cry. Didn't shake. Just lifted her bandaged arm, showed the court what was left of her skin, and said, "This is what love costs when a liar doesn't get her way." Tanya's defense? Temporary emotional distress. She claimed I had led her on, that I had promised to reconcile, and when she discovered I was entertaining another woman, She became momentarily unhinged. The courtroom went dead silent when she said that, because her voice wasn't shaken. It was practiced, rehearsed, manipulated down to the syllables. She was trying to sell the story that I had wronged her, that she had a breakdown because of me. It almost worked, until the prosecutor played the voicemail. The judge's face didn't move, but I saw it in her eyes. That flicker of disgust, that moment where even she, in her robe and impartiality, wanted to say, "Are you kidding me?" Tanya was found guilty. Assault with intent. 6 months in county with mandatory psychiatric counseling. It wasn't life-ruining, not jail for life, but it was real, and it was public. Her mugshot made the local news. It spread. People started talking. Old friends dropped her. The social circles she used to dominate on Instagram went quiet. Her likes vanished. Her influencer ambitions? Gone. Because in the end, she didn't just hurt Ellie. She exposed herself for who she was. A beautiful liar. A manipulative ex-wife. A woman who would trade anyone's safety for the illusion of control. But the real twist came after the sentencing. That's when she tried again. One last Hail Mary. This time, with fire. It's a strange thing, peace. You never realize you're in it until it's gone. After the trial, everything got quieter. I thought maybe that was it. The end of the storm. Tanya was sentenced. Ellie was healing. My business was stable. The house felt warm again. Real again. I could hear the wind chimes without flinching. I could look at the porch without picturing her hands, her scream, the boiling water. For a few weeks, it felt like life might actually be mine again. Ellie and I started talking about moving. She found a little two-story in a quiet town upstate, near a lake. Said it reminded her of childhood, and maybe we needed fresh walls. I agreed. We even toured it one Sunday. It smelled like pine and old carpet on its smells. The backyard had a rusted swing set. I imagined sanding it down, repainting it for someone else's kids someday. For the first time in years, I imagined a future that didn't involve cleaning up Tanya's wreckage. But I should have known better. Because with people like her, the damage never ends when the judge bangs the gavel. I got the first envelope 3 weeks after sentencing. No return address. Handwritten. Inside? Just a USB stick. No note. No name. Just a red sticker on one side. It rattled me. I almost didn't plug it in. But I had to know. The folder inside was labeled, in case he forgets. Inside were dozens of files. Photos. Screenshots. Audio clips. Some were old. Photos of me during the worst months after our divorce. Drunk. Crying. Passed out on the couch. Things I didn't even remember her taking. Others were newer. Recordings of phone calls I never knew she was on. Me venting to friends. Me talking to Ellie. Me admitting things I hadn't told anyone, like the time I almost left town in the middle of the night. Or how sometimes I didn't think I was good enough for anyone. She recorded everything. She'd been building a second life on a hard drive. And now she was threatening to release it. The next envelope came 5 days later. This time, it had a letter. Typed. If you want to protect your little girlfriend's future, I suggest you stop pretending you're a victim. You lied to her about everything. I didn't have to lie. I just remembered. She claimed she had emails drafted. She had copies stashed with a friend. She said if anything happened to her, if she didn't like the way the world treated her moving forward, those files would go out. To Ellie. To the local paper. To my business clients. She said I built my new life on the bones of the old one, and now she was the undertaker. I showed Grady. He paled. This is psychological warfare, he muttered. She's already convicted, I said. She shouldn't be contacting me. She's not, he said, waving the envelope. This isn't signed. No fingerprints. And she's smart enough to use a proxy. Can we stop her? He exhaled. Maybe. But it'll get worse before it gets better. And it did. 2 nights later, Ellie found her tires slashed. No cameras this time. No witnesses. Just a single bobby pin left on the hood of her car. Gold. Same brand. Same curve. Just like the one I found in our couch a year ago. We called the police again. They were sympathetic. But their hands were tied. Tanya had an alibi. She was still in court-mandated therapy, attending sessions. Keeping her head down. At least, on paper. But we knew. She had people. People she'd manipulated. People who still believed she was the one who was wronged. She had a way of making everyone feel like her pain was sacred, even when she'd caused it. Ellie and I decided to move sooner. We packed in silence most days. It wasn't fear. It was exhaustion. The kind that comes from knowing that no matter how far you go, someone's shadow can follow you if you let it. We loaded the last of the boxes into the truck late one Thursday night. The porch light flickered once, just like it had the night Tanya left for the last time. Ellie stood beside me and said, "Promise me something. Anything. If she ever shows up again, you don't talk. You don't open the door. You don't give her a second more of your life. I promise."